Hey, Rocky, you've served at VCL as a staff member, as the president and CEO, and now you're the chairman of the board. It's amazing.
I know. He's been around a while.
Yes, he has.
You're one of the Institute trainers, and you do counseling.
Yes.
And so when were you first introduced to Victorious Christian Living, and when was that?
Okay. Well, we went on a trip to the Holy Lands and met the former president and his wife. That was David Ritzenthaler and Suzanne Ritzenthaler. Became friends with them. And we're the kind of people, if you ever invite us to come visit, we actually show up. And so we came out to we didn't even know what Scottsdale was. They told us they lived in Scottsdale. Where's that? Oh, it's Phoenix. Oh, okay, Phoenix we know. But a couple of years after we became friends with them, and I knew that Dave ran this Christian counseling ministry, they had a summer fundraiser. They called it President's Council.
Yeah.
And they did it. It was basically you got invited out, and everything was paid for by a generous family that donated all of this to us. And we heard the testimonies that were life-changing, not just for the people that shared them, but for those of us that heard them. And that led us to wanting to get involved with Victorious Christian Living.
Well, around that time, Rock, you introduced Fred and I to Victorious Christian Living. I think I remember you giving us a big stack of these VHS tapes. Anybody remember going through these tapes, going through the messages for Victorious Christian Living? So, no, that's my wedding.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't find any of those old ones.
Those are worth money if you can find some of those.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I think they got thrown away. So you came to VCL. What year was that?
1995 was when we went through the training, and we were living in College Station then, and that's when we taught it at your church. But
yes. Okay.
I came to work here, at Victorious Christian Living in 1997.
That's right. And so a few years after you joined the staff, which would have been like about 23 years ago, you had it in your heart to simplify the Victorious Christian Living materials, which used to be in this book here, which we called the Victorious Christian Living Conference or Manual, or just simply the Blue Book. That was what everybody called it. And so it looks like that. And so we wanted, and you wanted, to really help people be able to share these things. It was very difficult to share this unless you had been through a bunch of training. And so kind of walk us through what that looked like of redoing that.
Okay. Well, each of the lessons now, if you're familiar with SALT, there's only one diagram for each lesson. And so it's kind of built as we teach it. But back in the early days, there were maybe as many as 5 diagrams per lesson, and perhaps even more than that. So it was back in the good old days when the way you taught was you put transparencies up on a transparency machine and you could write on it, and it was really super interactive. But it took a lot of training to become proficient in teaching that. And we said when we taught it, after we had been through the training, gosh, if this was any harder, we wouldn't even try. So I believe that there was going to be a way to make it easier, a way to make it so that people could not only understand the message well and be impacted by the message, but also share the message easily. And that led to the rewrite, which we then organized and called it the 7 Areas of Life Training, or SALT.
Exactly. Well, that vision took 3 years. And during that time, we were writing, we were editing, we were beta testing it with people that would come to the ministry. And then we'd go shredding, and then we would rewrite, and then we would do more testing, more shredding. And I remember at one time, I had literally a pile of documents this tall that were just like all marked through and that we were doing. And then it was more rewriting. But all of that work gave birth to what we call SALT, 7 Areas of Life Training, version 1.0, and that was back in 2025, so that's been 20 years ago, which is really amazing. Kind of blows my mind. So, do any of you remember these covers? Yeah? Okay. Right. Maria remembers. Sure.
I remember.
Exactly.
Probably still have some in a warehouse somewhere.
Somewhere, probably. Yeah.
You know, Rocky, for over 20 years, you've watched SALT travel farther than we ever imagined. It's touched more lives than we can count. Did you ever think that that original spark would be the tool God used to ignite the multiplication we're seeing today?
Well, I had hoped so. When we heard the messages of Victorious Christian Living in the VCL conference, they had the same kind of impact on our lives, my wife's life, my life, and other folks that we knew. It had the same kind of impact that the messages have today. It's just it was less common that there were people who felt equipped to teach it. And so that was really the goal, and I love hearing the testimonies of how it is spreading around the world.
You know, it's interesting because we were in the same class.
Yeah.
And I had to write my own paper, but all you had to do was create SALT. That just wasn't right. Yeah. Now listen, that spark ignited the kind of multiplication we'll be sharing about tonight. It's exactly like what Paul described in 2 Timothy 2:2, where he said, "The things which you have heard from me, entrust these to faithful people who will be able to teach others as well." The process Paul describes looks like this chart.
Yep.
Well, I see in that Paul is teaching and pouring into specifically Timothy. That's who this is written to. And then Timothy is pouring into faithful men who are pouring into more faithful people to be able to share. And, you know, I just see that pattern through really everything that Victorious Christian Living does, is really about taking God using SALT and biblical counseling to ignite a spark in somebody's life who's going to take it and share it with somebody else. And that spark then multiplies. And you can see on our chart here that as you get poured into by SALT and being counseled and growing, and of course God uses lots of other things, church, and you know, his word is in SALT really strong. But God uses a lot of things, but specifically for our ministry, we're like talking about how SALT and being counseled and experiencing that starts with you, and then you're sharing with a client, a friend, or a family member, and then those people, they start sharing with clients, family members, and friends. And then what happens? Well, it just ripples out. It just expands. When we first came to Victorious Christian Living, which was years and years ago too, not as long as Rocky, but I remember when we were praying for our an event we were doing, the Lord just gave me a picture of like that old Bonanza map that was at the beginning of the Bonanza show. Really simple special effects, but basically it, a flame starts and then it grows across there. That was the picture God gave me. And I really believe that spark is the SALT has really been what God used to be able to expand the ministry and cause it to just take off. So it's amazing.
You know, in 2006, we released version 2.0.
Which you'll see on your screen here.
Of the SALT books and material. Then last year, we took another exciting step by creating digital versions, and so people can now download it and actually answer the questions online if they choose to do that.
That's right. Well, Rock, if you were to sum up what God is doing in people's lives through SALT, through Victorious Christian Living, what would be something that was really good that we could quote and use like on social media or something like that, you know?
Well, I think that the insights that people gain from seeing the scriptures and discipleship presented the way SALT does, the way Victorious Christian Living has done for years, really leads to victorious Christian living.
Amen.
Yes.
And even though that sounds old-fashioned to some people, it really says what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, victorious Christian lives.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And that's
Amen.
who we usually work with as Christians that need to live victorious lives.
That's true.
So at the beginning, at the front of the well, let me scooch on one more little click. At the beginning, the front of the SALT workbooks, there's a dedication page. And the dedication page gives respect to those people that have worked at Victorious Christian Living in the past and ones that are currently at Victorious Christian Living, sharing these truths and ministering to people. That's been a big part of our foundation. And then there's a special thanks. You might just be able to read it. It's kind of tiny, but special thanks goes to Rocky Nystrom. Your vision and creativity made this series a reality. Your determination brought it to completion and lots of shredding and rewriting. And your heart for people to be free energized us along the way.
That's really good.
That is good. And that was written the
Amen.
old-fashioned way by humans, not AI,
Absolutely.
ChatGPT.
Well, thank you, Rocky, for the part you've played in the creation of SALT, which, by the way, is now translated into 15 different languages and others on the way.